Guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you here, Ben and Connie. We've lived parallel lives for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Known who you are. Ben, you've been crushing it in real estate, and you guys have a really cool story, and I'm thankful to have you on the podcast. Thankful to have my co-host, Betty Jo, here, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you for
thanks for having us.
We've never actually formally told our story other than just to people that we've met or that have wanted to hear it to maybe help them go through similar things.
Yeah. Well, thank you in advance. And for our listeners, this is going to be a treat. This is a really cool story. And, you know, I'm rebranding my podcast. The podcast was Recession-Proof Real Estate Investing. How do I not lose money? How do I buy multifamily? And I did that forever. And I realized over the 3 years of doing that talking to people like you with a unique story or who have been through a trauma, a trial in life, and who could tell that story was extremely motivating and inspiring for others and for my listeners. And it wasn't until I started doing a little bit more of that I realized that was way more fun than talking about real estate.
Yeah.
And then I started getting text messages of people saying, hey, that really inspired me. Thank you so much. And I was like, oh, wow. And just me, selfishly, the interviews have been so much better and it's just fun doing them, you know? So I've learned a ton.
It probably helped you in real estate too, because I always feel like the key to sales in real estate is if you can relate to anyone and anything they've been through and they feel comfortable with you, you can sell anyone. Because it's all about relationships.
The relationship.
And so all the more things you've been through or people you've met, and our friend group is, I don't think there's a more diverse friend group you could imagine. We have friends, I mean, if you categorize people in boxes, which we do not, we filled all the boxes. And it's been a blessing for us and our kids to see and meet all kinds of different people that live different lives. And so
we still all come together and have a good time.
Yeah.
And everyone's got a story. Everyone, I mean, and I know the type of people you hang out with. You hang out with positive people. You don't have to be a multimillionaire to be a friend with you guys, but you have to be going somewhere. And when I say going somewhere, improving your situation, right? A positive, happy person. And the person we had on here before you guys got in here, meth addict in her teenage years to rock star real estate agent mom, crushing it in life.
Yeah.
And so,
amazing.
Yeah, there's some really cool stories. Now, you guys have a unique story. You were married, got divorced, and then remarried. And you have two beautiful children, one of which just got signed on to a modeling agency. So congrats to her. I'm sure you guys are very proud parents.
Yes.
And your boy's thinking about moving to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's backtrack a little bit. You guys met when you were 19, 20?
I was 20. Yeah,
You were
this
20?
is 1999.
Were you
People, I'm
20
aging
or were you
myself.
19? It was in July.
I was 20.
When you got married?
Yeah, when we got married, it was 1 month before I turned 21.
Okay.
Holy
I wasn't
cow.
even old enough for a drink. Not that I would have, because I was really Mormon at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd moved to Utah I came down for my mom's wedding. And after the wedding, I was here for the weekend and ended up answering an ad for extra work on a film set.
Wow.
And I showed up and I was like, this will be cool. I was always fascinated with movies. And in walks John Goodman and Courtney Cox. And I was like,
Nice.
I'm not leaving Utah. This is
Was this at Sundance? Or where were you?
No, this was just downtown.
Was just downtown. Marty Fresca from the Fresca family was a casting agent. And he's like,
wow.
you should come do this. And I was just, in the background, but seeing the behind the scenes of filming was amazing. And that's kind of how we originally met, was through a talent agency.
What? Which one was it?
It's called Urban.
Urban Talent?
Urban.
Wilhelmina Urban.
It was Wilhelmina. Oh, at the time it was just Urban, but yeah, it was a part-time job for me. I just worked downtown in between moving up from SUU, going to the U, and I needed a job during the summer. And my friend knew the owner, so she's like, "Hey, maybe you could fill in at the front desk until she finds somebody permanent." And then in walks this guy.
Well,
no, actually, we met.
Play. It's kind of our Cinderella story.
Okay.
So I was.
We got to tell this part. It's just too cute
tell
not
it,
to.
please.
We have to.
I was invited to the play by the girl playing Cinderella.
Okay.
And I would have never thought as a singer, I'm just going to go to a play by myself. But I was like, okay, I'll go. And so she was invited.
I was invited by the casting director of the whole agency. She's like, "Hey, it's our last night. Here's a couple tickets. Come see Cinderella." So I brought my mom.
Literally
summer day.
Cinderella.
Yeah. Cinderella.
That's
I met
awesome.
him.
She thought the prince was cute. And I just remember seeing her walk in and I was like, wow. But Utah was very different for me as far as dating because I grew up in Montana. And in Montana, if you meet someone, just go back to the same bar next weekend and they'll be there.
Yeah.
In Utah, if you meet somebody, you may never find him again.
Got it.
I mean,
Yeah.
A lot bigger
it's
here.
a little bit, a little bit harder. So I was like, boy, I'm going to have to. But so I just kept noticing her. And at the end of the play, they had the queen, who was the casting director, and Cinderella and some of the main cast were all standing and meeting people, and they were all lining up.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew them so well. I kind of came up, snuck up behind him, and put my arms around him right as Connie walked up.
I think he did that on purpose. He
Maybe.
saw me at the same time. He's like,
Wasn't-
hey.
This is my chance.
But so she's like, "Who's this guy?" You know, and kind of got her name and found out, had heard just that she was working the front desk at the talent agency, and I was working construction at the time, roofing the Grand America Hotel.
Nice.
What were you doing for the agency?
I was just taking classes and wanting to be an actor.
Okay.
So I was bartending at night and wanting to be an actor, and then doing construction as well. And so I would always try to find ways to pop into the agency and see if she was there.
So it really was like coincidence. You guys were both there because you were
Mhm.
just looking.
But the
Yeah.
coincidence gets even
Okay.
better. So then the same girl invited me she goes, come to an acting class. You know, you have to take acting classes if you're going to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So I show up and they have this like round circle and you just kind of grab a seat. Well, Connie walks in with her sister.
Well,
her
and
s-
I'm no actress, and I didn't even want to take acting classes, but the same woman who got me to go to her play that was over the acting department, she's like, hey, you should come take an acting class. Well, my little sister thought that would be fun. And I'm like, well, it's like $30. We have to pay to go. Do you want to do it? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And we were young and,
Yeah.
I don't know, she probably had some babysitting money. And so we bought our tickets and go to this acting class. I just went to support her and I'm like, maybe it'll be fun. So yeah, he walks in and my sister and I are sitting there and he sits next to my sister. And then they ended up pairing us up every other person to do a scene together.
Oh.
So him and I got paired
No
up
way.
to do a scene together. And
It was so interesting too, because the premise of the scene was everybody had the same dialogue. And there was like 10 groups, 10 couples. And the premise was that you had these lines like, good morning, how you doing? You know,
how'd you
how
sleep?
was your night? How did you sleep? But everybody had a different scenario. Like ours was,
This is funny.
we had just spent the night together and I just found out that she was a transvestite.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
And
So
we're
we had to
having
act out
breakfast.
these normal,
Okay.
like this normal dialogue, like this is awkward.
Like, oh, and so, but everyone was different. And we went outside to
pretty
practice
fun.
our lines and just chat, just didn't talk
Yeah.
and didn't. So then we had to just kind of go wing it. And then at the end of the class, her sister was just kind of lingering, talking. And I was like, I gotta ask this girl out. I'm never going to see her again. So I was like, all right, like, can I have your number? And I remember calling her, and this is back.
When,
Was it her parents' phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He
I
had to
got it
call my
memorized.
She's
landline.
not
I had no
home.
cell phone.
Yeah, yeah.
The 1999.
I love that.
Like, she's actually at Lake Powell. I'm like, okay. And so then I finally got a hold of her on the phone. She called me back, and I was like, all right. And I was kind of, old school. And I was like, well, come over and I'll cook you dinner. And so I made like this salmon with this sauce, made this whole dinner. And I was like, all right. And had her over, went and picked her up, had her over. I was like, well, what do you want to drink? Do you want like a Zima
Mhm.
or a beer or a wine cooler or some wine? Actually, I wasn't into wine at the time. And she was like, no, I'm good. I was like, okay. I could not
You're
understanding.
19.
Yeah.
right?
Well, she
I was 20,
Mormon
but
and didn't drink.
yeah.
And since I moved to Utah, I kept hearing about LDS this and,
You just weren't
there were all the
familiar.
radio ads, LDS standards. And I'm like, what is
Yeah.
this, LDS standards thing? So she was like kind of bummed out that I wasn't Mormon, but decided it
Well,
was.
because I had a non-Mormon boyfriend all through high school who I thought for sure I was going to marry.
Mhm.
So when he decided not to take missionary discussions, I'm like, oh, I can't marry this guy. So then I meet this guy who I'm like, he's so cute, but another one, he's not Mormon. So I can't marry him because it has to be forever at
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
I really believe
And the
that.
family pressure.
Yeah. So I was just like, bummer. He's so cute. But why do I have to think I have to marry every cute guy? We can just date and have a good time and be friends.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. I was like, it's fine.
But she gave me we all had headshots. She gave me her headshot. And I was like, well, and I was going through a time too. When I moved to Utah, it was weird. I had grown up Lutheran.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved to Utah, I just felt, I was like, I need religion. I don't know why. I felt like I needed a religion.
This was after Marine Corps?
After military. In the military, you have to pick a church to go to every Sunday.
Right.
So I went to like Southern Baptist churches. I picked a different one every weekend. And I remember going to Barnes & Noble and saying, I need the Bible. And they go, which one? And I was like, the Holy Bible. And there was aisles and aisles of, I was like, I don't know. And I was kind of dating this born-again Christian girl who, and my roommate was born-again Christian and had given me a book on cults, and Mormonism was in it.
Yeah.
So I remember telling my parents, like, I met this girl, but she's Mormon. And my mom's like, oh, no.
I had the same conversation with my mom.
Really?
Yes.
My dad, who was an outlaw biker, had a little different. When I told him, well, later on when I told him I was getting baptized because we were getting engaged after 3 months.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He goes, welcome to the family. And he sent me this entire genealogy book. My whole dad's side of the family was LDS, and I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
So I have this whole book on genealogy.
So it was just your great-grandpa that stopped going to church.
Yeah.
So it was his great-grandpa and his grandpa. But like almost all his family before that were all Mormons. So of course my mom was like, this is like the missing link now. You can join your family back together.
Well, and she was
That's
over
awesome.
one night and found the book on cults. And she's like, Mormons are in here. Like what?
Well, because I'd always heard like, oh, Mormon's a cult. And I'm like, no, it's not.
And they tell you not to read them.
Yeah. And then when I read it in an actual book, then it just was so weird for me to go, oh my gosh, people actually believe it's a cult. And I mean, I have different views on it now than I did then, but still.
Well, I did, but she asked me to do the missionary discussions, and
those are a trip.
Well, the only thing that was a trip to me, for me, going to church with her, it felt very much like going to church with my born again Christian friend was like a production. The guitars and the lights and like people were like
rock band,
and I was a little bit more like, shut up, be quiet, like pay attention, this is we're at church. Be
that was
reverent.
my favorite part, the singing.
And so they'd get all kind of hysterical. And so when I went with her, it felt like growing up Lutheran. It felt the same. So I was like, okay, I'm good with this. I'm comfortable with this. And we went for a year, and her mom moved up our marriage because she was worried that we were and did get in trouble before we got married.
Tell the truth.
Worried about making babies.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We got.
And I'm like, Mom, is it going to make a difference? She's like,
we almost went to the courthouse to get married and be like, so now we
you
don't
get
have
in
to
your
feel
head
bad.
about it. It's like, okay, so at this point we need paperwork that says it's okay for us to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, this is so stupid.
But there's so much social and family pressure on that.
So much.
Well, but I was so confused.
Yeah. So we were going to secretly do that. So we felt okay with it. And then we're like, then when we thought about it, we're like, well,
and so much
I don't know
guilt.
if that's the answer either.
Well, that's what was
So
crazy
much
for
guilt.
me is I had moved out from my home when I was 17.
Wow.
And my parents didn't call me. They didn't worry about me. And so when I was 24 dating her mom would call my apartment. And
After midnight, nothing good happens after midnight.
What's going on? And
What are you doing?
And she would be like, we can't do this. We can't do that. I'm like, and I always joke that like she was the first girl to tell me no. So I was like, I better.
Because I was being a very good Mormon girl at the time.
Did they tell you that my favorite quote from my BYU bishop was back rubs in the front, leave to front rubs in the back.
Leave to front rubs
like in the back room. Like you weren't allowed to take people back to your bedroom at BYU. They could only stay in the front room of your apartment.
Yeah.
And you definitely shouldn't give them a back rub because that would lead to
I haven't heard that of all the things.
Back rubs in the front, leave to front rubs in the. I'm like,
That's
are you
funny.
kidding me?
Well, and my parents were so
Good old BYU.
kind of like my dad. It didn't matter if I got straight A's, what I did in business, or not. I didn't do a whole lot of business when I was young, but like what made him proud of me was that I got girls. But I was like hyper shy in high school. I didn't date.
Really?
I was so shy. I just
was
was
kind of
like,
shy.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking in public I remember being horrified.
Right. That's how I
To
was.
do it. And
I would turn
didn't
red
date.
if a girl talked to me. My ears they would do it just to embarrass me in high school.
it wasn't until the military that all of a sudden I was like, had this kind of like bad boy image. And like we would go off base and girls just showed up. So it was kind of easy.
Yeah.
It's like the uniform.
But
groupies.
mentally for that to be what made dad proud of me kind of was like, kind of messed me up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like the nice guy. I was like, I would meet these girls and be like, this is the one. And then 2 weeks later be like, gotta get her to go away in a nice way. And I was like, what's wrong with me? I do not want to be like, not to speak ill of my dad, but he was married 7 times. It just wasn't his, he just wasn't a marriage person.
Yeah.
And I knew that's something I didn't want. I wanted to find that one woman that I could like have a life with and have a history with.
Yeah.
So I met her and it was like this game changer. And so she had so much guilt. She would tell me all this stuff. She's like,
Yeah.
I've been with 2 guys. And I was like ever or last weekend? Like,
Ever or last weekend?
like, and then
Why are you
also,
But I
So
felt
this-
so guilty about
telling me
it.
this?
Yeah, I was like,
Well,
if I
that-
tell him
exactly.
everything and he still likes me, then I'm okay. But like
Yeah.
if he finds out later, just how you're like have so
Well,
much guilt
in
around
the church,
it, right?
it's like you're tainted.
'Cause you're
you're
tainted.
used.
chewed up
Yeah.
bubble gum at this point.
chewed up bubble
you're-
gum. Deb
Like,
said the same
once
thing when she
you-
met John.
Yeah,
Once you like wrinkle up a paper, even if you undo it, it's still wrinkled.
it's still wrinkled.
well,
yeah,
if it was yesterday when we were dating, okay,
That's
something
a
we need to
little
talk
weird.
about.
Yeah.
But like before I knew you, like I don't care what you did.
You're like 2? Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can we not talk about my body count?
yeah,
she-
exactly. Then I dug into it. I'm like, wait a minute, how many people have you been with?
You're really
He's
good
like,
at this.
oh, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
I've been single since I was 17. I didn't have my values handed to me like I had to be a certain way. So
No social pressure to be a virgin.
yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, encouraged
Outside.
to
Yeah.
not to be.
Yeah.
I felt like I was disappointing by being not more,
Yeah.
promiscuous.
Yeah,
Yes.
very, very.
But it
different.
kind of like it's kind of like the truth. You hear like the joke about the bishop's daughter is the wildest one, but also
That's
the
so
parents
true.
that are very wild. Like I kind of imposed these very structured boundaries for myself.
Yeah.
And was kind of, like I wanted to make her a dinner and date and like get to know her and like,
Yeah.
it was kind of the old school. So
It worked.
yeah, it worked and we got married and
So your mom moved up the wedding
So yeah, because
Wait, so you got engaged
because
3
she
months
had an
in?
idea you guys were
Well,
gonna
I broke down and
get
told
into
her.
trouble.
Yeah, because I felt so bad. No, so Ben took missionary discussions and then he got baptized like 2 weeks later, like really fast. He was just like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
the discussions were fine. The only part that was weird for me was when they were like,
Do you believe?
no, well, like they'd get real serious and make you commit. Will you commit to the word of wisdom? And
commit?
I was like, do I need to sign something?
Like
This
right
is a
now?
hard close.
What?
Like
It's the
this-
punishment.
This is a very
Yeah.
hard
Well,
close.
Betty got baptized for marriage as well.
Really?
The relationship.
I was pregnant
Oh.
and I was taking the discussions in Hawaii, and I straight up told my bishop, I was like, hey, like I've read this book twice, cover to cover.
Wow.
You've
There's
read it
stuff
more
in
than
here
me.
that I'm super confused about. He's like, don't pay attention to that.
Don't pay attention.
Do you believe
to
in
that.
this?
Hey,
Are you?
Hawaiian Mormons are awesome.
My bishop
I
had
believe that.
tattoos from head to toe. If I wasn't in Hawaii, I don't think I would have followed through. Because I'd taken the discussions a few times, and now she's like, this shit's whack.
Yeah.
But
But
being
a little
pregnant,
different in Hawaii.
yeah.
And you were pregnant?
Well,
The
they make you their
state-
family. And,
So the bishop
and
was cool, but the stake president was like, are you sleeping together? And I was like, well, we like cuddle. It's like, that's got to change. So we literally separated bedrooms.
Oh, you were living together.
We separated our bedrooms. I mean,
You're like, I'm pregnant. Does that
I-
answer your
I was-
question?
I was
Does that answer
I was
your question?
abstinent. No, I was straight
you
up.
know how
I was
this works?
abstinent, everything. But we had to separate our rooms. He had his own room. I had my own room. And I was like, yep, I'm not drinking because I'm pregnant. I'm not having sex. I'm following everything. I don't
I think
believe.
pregnant ladies are kind of hot. No, just me.
Just going to say
I was
it.
Just gonna
hot.
throw that
Well,
out
we,
there.
we
Yeah.
actually had, I remember going to church and we had I felt really, we had some great
We had some good
experiences
feelings,
at church.
yeah.
Like there were times where people would be like, we'd walk in and I remember someone said, there's just a light around this couple. And we just kind of felt special. And
Yeah.
there were some times we'd go away from it like, wow, I really needed to hear that discussion today. So there was a lot of good
There's a
things
lot of
about
good-
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of
And
good things.
we lived within the church for like 6 years.
Mhm.
But I remember when we first, it was right when we were dating, I don't know how early on, a couple months, my sister was getting married in Vegas.
Mm.
And I was supposed to bring this other girl. And then I was like, well, I want to take Connie. So I canceled her flight and rebooked it with Connie. And we're walking through a casino and I used to drink Captain Cokes all the time. That was my drink. And I ordered the drink and she kind of was like, I could tell she kind of was like,
I was judging him,
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Hardcore.
like,
but I didn't say anything because I was like, you can do what you want.
because she never
I
was
knew
like,
you weren't Mormon.
I need you to
Yeah.
be this way or anything. She never told me anything like that. But she's just like, well, I just probably won't marry someone that drinks.
Oh,
And I remember I set it down on the bar and I didn't drink for 5 years.
wow.
He didn't pick up another drink until I started drinking like 5 years
Nice.
later.
But
He's like,
for
oh, I guess
me-
we're drinking now.
for me,
Okay.
that was,
Well, that's love. Right?
Yeah.
It was, well, it wasn't, it was easy. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it
It's
just,
not easy for everyone to do that, though.
no. And so, you know, like, yeah,
Well, the commitment to someone is like, cool. All right.
Like that's easy.
Kind
if
of
I
like
can
our
be with you.
buddy's dad, who his wife was like, they've been married forever. They're in their 60s. And she's like, I think I'm going to leave the Baptist church. And he's literally the administrator of a Baptist college.
wow.
And he goes, okay, if you're leaving, I got to leave too.
Wow.
Now they're in Vegas. Nicest guy ever. He was actually our driver to EDC.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
That's
But,
the one that I was
um,
like rolling up the
oh,
window,
yeah,
making
yeah.
eye contact with.
Well,
He must be a pretty cool guy.
But for him,
He
yeah,
shows-
it was he kind of said the same thing. Wasn't that hard of a decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we're going to be partners in this
No.
in this life, but not everyone's like that though. I mean,
No.
Right.
that
Right.
takes a special.
If your partner in
Relationship.
life has made a decision, you are at that fork of like, do I support them or do I not support them?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a simple yes or no.
The key
Yeah.
to, I think, you know, they always talk about like the success of the man is based on the woman you marry. And there's so many things I wouldn't have done in my life had it not been for her. Like she had this very specific plan, like get married, have kids, you know, like we're going to do these. And right away it was like, we need to have kids. And I was like, we're broke. Are you crazy?
He's like, we live in your
We
mom's
live in your
basement
mom's
right
basement.
Yeah.
Why do you think we need to have kids? It was the only argument we ever had, and I'm like, this shouldn't be something we should argue about. This should be something celebrated and excited about.
Yeah.
So I was kind of bummed out, and then we magically just got pregnant someday.
Somehow the
Some-
rhythm method, which
And it
I'd
worked
never
out.
heard about or knew about.
Yeah.
Worked.
It worked out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you stopped taking the pill or
I was on the pill at the time.
okay.
Yeah, that's like a big secret. Do you want me to tell it?
No, I knew she was on the pill, but she didn't tell me till after that she decided.
Well, I got so mad and I was so young and so, I don't know, naive. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to take it. And then I got a whole month of not taking it. And then at the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I get pregnant and I didn't tell him, this is not how children should come into the world. I should not be sneaking this.
Yeah.
So then I started my period and I was like, okay, I'm taking every single pill. That's not who I am. That's so deceitful. I'm not doing that to my husband. I don't know what I was thinking. And by the end of the next month, I was pregnant. And then I was like, oh my
shit.
gosh, it got out of my system just enough probably.
Yeah.
And so I was so worried to tell him, oh my gosh, we're pregnant, because it was the only thing we argued about.
This is juicy. How did he handle it?
You know, I actually, so we went,
She took me to my favorite restaurant, Wingers.
well, we went
Nice.
to one of our,
Wingers.
yeah,
Go
that-
wingers.
wingers. We a bunch of our friends were getting married at the time, so we went to a wedding reception, and then I went over to Target and I got these cute little baby booties and like a little onesie that said "Daddy's boy" or "Daddy's baby" or something. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna make this little cute gift basket," and I wrote him this card, and I was like, "Well, I mean, there's only one way to I can't turn this thing around now."
Slides me my gift.
Yeah, so we go to Wingers. They bring us the popcorn. And I just slid this little gift over to him. He's like, "What is this?" And I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to go. So he opens it up and he sees these baby items. And then he opens up a card. And it was the sweetest thing, because he looked at me and he goes, "Everything always ends up working out for people who have children. It's going to be okay."
Oh,
And I was like, just sobbing. I'm like,
That's
oh my gosh,
awesome.
it's going to be okay. Even though I had no idea how it was going to be okay at this point.
yeah.
And everything did work out, and like
That's
better
awesome.
than ever. So,
But
yeah.
it's not like you didn't want kids. You were just like
Right.
scared because you're like, oh, we're broke. We're living in
Well,
the
yeah,
basement.
Yeah, he's like, it's not the right time.
Like I knew I wanted to get married, but I don't think if I hadn't moved to Utah, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just wasn't like the culture in Montana. Like people just didn't, I don't know. It wasn't really a big deal.
Yeah.
Just like college wasn't a big deal. Like it was just like, you get out of high school and they're like, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Which one are you doing?
Where did you live in Montana?
Missoula.
Okay.
Zoo-
Yeah.
So Utah to me was like this fantasy place of like, there's kids driving BMWs. This is insane. Where am I, Beverly Hills?
Missoula is pretty
Yeah.
podunk.
It is. It's
like-
changed now, I
yeah.
think, but it for
And
sure.
I was just like, there's so much opportunity here. And I was
Yeah.
like, then you start to meet people. And so, yeah, we had Josh. And then a year later, we got sealed in the temple.
Mhm.
So we did that with him, which was
You got baptized.
amazing.
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
'cause you have to
sealed.
get baptized.
Yeah, because you have to wait a year. Yep.
You have to be
after-
married for a year,
Uh-huh.
and then you can. Because I did that too.
Yeah, and we actually waited 2 years because we were so broke. Apparently, we didn't have enough faith to pay our tithing during our broke years.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay your tithing, right? I'm like, we can, if we pay our tithing, we have to move out. So
Yeah.
anyway, it took us another year to pay our tithing, get right
Okay.
with everything. And so we were married 2 years and took our little 3-month-old through the temple.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And then, then we had Jenica 2 years later.
Exactly, almost 2 years later.
On his birthday, she was due.
That's a great story. So you
Yeah.
said,
That's
I
awesome.
don't think I can marry someone that drinks. So he sets the drink down, doesn't drink for 5 years.
Hmm.
Then you decide, I think I'm going to stop taking birth control. Oh shit, what have I done? I better start taking it again. But it was too late at that point.
Too
You
late
get
at that
pregnant.
point. Here we are.
But Jenica wasn't planned at all. It just happened.
Yeah. I mean, have you guys heard of the rhythm method?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
huge.
where you kind of like watch the days you ovulate, and then so you use something a few days before, a few days after.
Yeah.
We were doing that like how it was told, and then somehow I must have been
I don't buy
super
into
fertile
it.
in my 20s or
No,
something.
I feel like it.
I got pregnant on birth control
Did you?
3
So
times.
didn't
3 times?
Liam's a
Yeah.
birth control baby.
Yeah.
And
When they're meant to come, they're just going to come anyway.
3
I
of my
think.
kids. I
3
didn't
of them.
want kids. and
You
I
did it?
Pregnant 3 times on birth control.
Wow.
I always knew I
Fair.
wanted to have kids and be a dad, but I don't think I would have ever said, let's do it.
Now's the day.
Like
I know.
ever.
I think that's
Probably
hard
ever.
for young kids
Yeah.
nowadays, especially like talking to my kids and their friends and stuff. They're like, everyone's looking for the perfect time. And it's
Yeah.
like, there's never going to be a perfect time. It's like, oh, when we buy our first house or when we do this, it'll be the right time. But it's like, no, there'll be something else. Something else will come up. There's no good time to have
Yeah.
kids.
No,
yeah.
No good times.
no, there's
You
not.
just do it and you live your life and you figure it out.
A lot of our friends some of our oldest friends have the youngest kids, and then we have older kids. And what's kind of cool is for our younger friends that are like in their mid-20s, we're kind of the example of like, oh, life doesn't end when you have kids. You can still party and have fun and
Yeah.
go to festivals and like
Yeah.
live a life.
You guys are late 30. No, you're 40?
I'm 49.
He turns
49?
50 this
Really?
year.
I'll be 50.
Damn.
I would have
Old
never
man.
guessed that.
Just kidding.
Nice.
I
You're
would've
looking good
thought-
for
I
49.
would've
dude.
thought you
and
were, like-
you're
I'm
40?
45.
Oh, you're 45. My math
Yeah,
is off.
I would have thought you
Yeah.
guys were like
You have a
in your
22-year-old and a
early
20-year-old?
Yeah.
30s.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can either have kids late and enjoy your 20s, 30s, and 40s, but I feel like you're kind of dumb in your 20s. Like,
Right.
it's like you don't understand life yet. You might as well have kids and
And you usually don't
suffer
make as much
then.
money in your
Yeah.
20s either to do
So you can't
too many
travel.
things. Yeah.
you're not going to travel. You're not going to have fun
I
in your
mean,
20s.
the lucky ones might, but yeah.
Yeah. So you might as well have kids, get that over with. So
Yeah.
good job.
I think the older
You're
it
gonna
gets, the
have fun.
harder it gets to make the decision to actually have
I think
kids.
so.
Yeah.
I think you kind
Someone-
of get set in your ways a little bit and it gets easier to like, I don't know. I think we blindly did it in a way. Like I always knew that's what I wanted for sure. The only thing I knew for sure I wanted was I wanted to meet the man in my dreams and then I wanted to have children with him. That's the only thing I knew for sure. That's still
Yeah.
the only thing I know for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
That's awesome.
But then they grow up and then you're like, wait, now what? Now what am I going to do? Like I those are the only things I knew for sure. Now I get, and I kind of mentioned this, but before we started, like I get to be a little creative with my life now and decide what do I want to do with my life? What's going to make me happy or
Yeah.
what's going to make me some money if that's what I want to do or what,
Plenty of
Connie-
time to do whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
like-
still really young. I mean, you got another 45, 50 years to do
She
whatever the hell
does.
you want.
I don't know how
I mean,
long.
my grandpa's going to be 99 on my dad's side or my mom's side, and my grandma turns 96 on my other side. So I think I'm going to live like forever.
Well,
Yeah.
here's a question
like-
for you guys. Oh, go ahead, Betty.
So obviously, like your initial purpose in life was, I want to get married. I want to be a mom, and you did that,
hmm
and you found, like your partner, and you fulfilled that. When, that was 10 years of your first life. where was the beginning of that end of that first life?
Well,
The
that
beginning of the
it
end.
started with. So that's what I was going to say.
That's
is
a good
Connie
question.
I'll kind of lead to that because she pushed me. Well, first of all, I always tell people like she requires that I'm a good man. Like it's like I have this blessing that she requires me to be I need to be the best version of myself for her.
Yeah.
Which is great
And
because
for you.
well, and for me.
Because that's the kind of person I want to be with. I want to be with that person that like, believes in
He
himself
pushes
and
me to be
pushes
better
himself.
and
That's
also
awesome.
makes it okay. Like I was working construction, I was estimating, I was topped out at my job. They told me I couldn't go any further because I didn't have a degree, even though I was managing people that were making far more than me because they had a degree.
Yeah.
And we were building a house. We met, and actually we're refinancing a house. And one of our friends who was doing the loan said, you should really just build one.
Yeah.
And because at the time you could do anything you wanted. It was stated income.
This is what year? 2000?
2005,
Five,
6.
six,
Yeah.
yeah.
5, yeah.
It's the Wild West out there.
And he,
Yeah.
Build a
I
custom
make
home for
$500,000
$500.
a year. Yeah.
Yeah, he worked for.
Also
he
good.
was the preferred lender for Desert Point Builders,
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, let's do it. So Ryan Poole listed our house. We built a home with Desert Point, and during the process, she was like, "This is so fun. I want to sell houses."
Because I was like
Nice.
stay-at-home mom at the time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I kind of want to do something. And I was watching the process of building a home. And I'm like, that looks so fun. I can totally do that.
Yeah.
How do I do that? So then found out like, you need a real estate license. You need a little bit of training. You can do it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can totally do this.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
They hired pretty much a team of women that look like her. That was their
Women
team.
that look like me.
They were kind of the party builder.
Yeah.
So that being that, and I remember the owner was like, "Well, if you work with us, you're going to party with us." And they went to Lake Havasu, and they
Nice.
went on the big.
Booze
So-
cruise in
Oh,
Mexico,
yes.
but they like invited everyone. The
They were a lot of
subcontractors
fun.
came. Everyone came.
Wow.
It was a family. It was
Yeah.
really fun.
And so
Those were the days.
we had gone to a jazz game.
And that's when I started drinking. And that's when
There you go.
the
I swear
ship
real-
started to tip.
I swear real estate and alcohol go hand in hand.
They do.
I
didn't
never
know
drank
that then.
champagne
Yeah.
until I went to real
Go
estate.
to a Board of Realtors event at 10 a.m. The bar line to the bar.
I was so confused. I was like, "You want me to drink champagne
Yeah.
now?"
Yep.
That's funny.
You're right. They do go
Yeah.
hand in hand.
So she took her garments off, I remember, and I was like, "Oh."
That's way
Okay.
sexier.
Well, and also
You're definitely less
the
sexier.
builder led to a lot of partying and that, and so I was like, "Cool, this was my previous life. I can just sort of fall right back into that." And we were with some friends that all worked for the build. Well, she told me after. Sorry, I skipped that part. She told me after about a month, she goes, "You're really the salesperson. You should do this." So I took
like, I can sell a house, but I mean, the market was awesome back then. I'm like, I'm crushing it. You're an actual sales guy. You would totally you'd kill it. You got to get out of roofing. You have to do this. I've done enough. I've sold enough now that we can take a break from your income. Just come do it.
That's
my
so
job-
cool that you believed in him and told him that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had that from a partner.
Yeah.
Betty and I have that for each other now, but that's actually rare. And so for our listeners to kind of just recap what you just said, you said, "Hey, Ben, I love you and I believe in you and you would be amazing at this. You should go do this."
Mm-hmm.
That's actually really cool.
I took a 2-week
kill it.
vacation and just crushed through the real estate licensing, got my license, and was like, "I'm out. If you guys aren't going to pay me what I'm worth, I'm out."
Wow.
And it was fun to work together. And at the time, it was just like you said, 2006 was just, it was a blast.
And we were
Yeah.
living like that money was never going to go away.
Oh,
Like we were
it was
young. This is the first time we
spend
made
every
real money.
dollar.
Yeah.
We went to
We
Vegas.
were young. Luckily, this happened when we were a little younger
Yeah.
so that we could realize
How old were you at the time? That
Gosh,
2005
I
would have
was-
been
I was probably
19 years ago.
27.
Yeah.
I was 27 when I started in real estate.
Okay.
And I did it for about 4 or 5 years. And then until he became the sales manager of the company. And then I'm like, you know what? Our kids are little. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and hang out with the kids.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, we
And
were
then the
on
market tanked.
we were on a vacation.
Perfect timing.
Well, when
Bought
it was
my house in 2007.
Yeah.
when it was crushing, we were on a trip in Vegas, and I remember going to XS when it was XS first opened,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just, Utah needs a club like this, and we're going to be the ones to bring it to Utah.
That's cool.
And so our friend Johnny Ritchie, he used to be the MC for the Mike
UFC?
Stidham's
Was it UFC fights?
It wasn't UFC. It was Mike Stidham's Ultimate Combat Challenge, I think it was called.
Okay.
And he was the MC.
Before UFC.
Before, well, yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know this building that's available, a 14,000 foot mega club. You guys I can hook you up.
Anyone from Utah that's listening that remembers back in the day, the Bay or the Vortex?
You remember?
This
Hotel.
was the club.
But ours was called Club
the
Bliss.
hotel was down the street, but same era.
Yeah, we were Club Bliss. So 3 married couples decided to mortgage our houses. Second mortgage our houses.
Mhm.
And open a nightclub because we were going to crush it. I remember running a performer and going, if we just get 300 people and everybody buys one drink, we're going to be killing it.
Yeah.
And we actually did most of the build out ourselves. We would go there after work.
Bring the kids.
We had the kids there, little kids
Yeah.
in the front room.
How old are they? 3, 4, 5 at this point?
Yeah.
And all 3 couples had little kids. So we'd like make a little space for them to play while we were like painting and tearing stuff out. And
That's awesome.
like, we worked our butts off on this
It was
massive building.
It was like a 3-month remodel.
Yeah.
15 years too soon.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we did
And 15,000 square feet too big.
Yeah.
well, that was the hard part. It's like, how do you make a 14,000 foot mega club? It was 3 levels.
Yeah.
So we would have to like fill the main floor and then allow the second floor to open, which was the mega part with the 2-story with the glass booth. And it was at the time though when realtors were crushing it. So they would come spend money.
Yeah.
And we'd had the fights on Saturday night.
We had the jazz, the Utah Jazz used to come hang out.
players
It
would
was
come
going
out.
off for a minute. It was
It was
That's cool.
fun
It was
that we
cool.
were like the club owners and she had an open bar tab for 3 years. I pretty much
stressed out and
and
ran around that place.
everything and with my other 2 partners. And then I remember it was just, we couldn't believe how much money we were spending on overhead. And what we didn't realize was the legality of trying to operate a nightclub in Utah with the DABC and their rules. And
So freaking.
Yeah, they do not want, like, they're looking for
they didn't like
any
that.
reason to shut you down.
That building
In
was
Utah.
always a problem. The protocol they could do anything.
Having a liquor license in Utah is extremely difficult.
Oh, it was
It
so
is.
hard.
That's
to
why you
get.
see the rebranding of clubs all the time
Yeah.
because they get like one underage kid in there or something stupid and they're like, you're done.
Well, we
Yep.
got a violation one time for 2 people that appeared to be intoxicated that were sitting down drinking water.
What?
And they
And we're
wanted
like,
to
you
pull-
appeared to be intoxicated in a club?
They wanted to pull our liquor license for a month.
Weird.
And we're like, so we're just going to send our staff home for a month and say, chill till we're ready to open
Yeah.
back up.
Yeah.
So we had booked Tommy Lee and DJ Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
That was like our big last hoorah. And I remember that night, just like, this is it. We may as well have fun. So we just had a blast with Tommy Lee and DJ Arrow, and that was the end of our club. And then we kind of were friends with the owners of the hotel and Lumpy's, and we sort of decided to partner up and kind of let them take over. And they created the Pierpont Group, which was going to be all those clubs, open the Sandbar. So I kind of helped with that. But right around that time is when we got divorced. Right after the nightclub.
So you guys ran a nightclub. Actually, do you guys know? Oh, geez, I just forgot his name. He ran the nightclub in Atlanta where the Baltimore Ravens linebacker, who I'm spacing out his name, stabbed a guy, and that's why they got shut down. Lee, what's his?
I'm not.
Anyways, there's an influencer who's a big influencer in real estate training right now. He owned the nightclub. I actually met him in Vegas. And Ray Lewis, back like 15 years ago, was basically in a murder.
Wow.
No one knows, but it happened at his nightclub. So he's making a huge amount of money. Had all the stars, all the Hollywood stars, football stars at his nightclub. And all of a sudden this murder happens and he loses it.
Dang.
Like just goes dead. No one comes to his nightclub anymore. So it's just like that fast. All of a sudden, your nightclub's done.
We almost had a murder on our opening night.
There was
Wow.
us. Someone wanted to
Opening
murder us.
night in downtown at Bliss.
The old previous owners threatened us on the street.
They hired somebody
Really?
who we won't mention now, but who's actually a friend of ours now who
Good friend.
didn't know us back then, was hired to go. He had a bag of guns across the street from us. They were trying to get some
These
stuff
Italian
out of the
leather
building.
chairs that were up in our office. They wanted
Yeah.
them. They just really wanted to mess up it was a soft opening with DJ Scribble. They just kind of wanted to throw it off. Because,
But luckily, one of our good friends who is a realtor, who's a broker, and we were young in the business, right? Back then, he knew who that guy was. And he went across the street and had a conversation with him and was like, hey, these are my kids, basically.
Yeah.
Take your stuff, get out of here. We'll handle this. Not tonight, not like this. And he's like, I had no idea what was going on outside. This is downtown Salt Lake City. I was like,
Crazy.
oh
I
my
remember
God.
Fairmont Street.
I remember
That's
standing on
It was
right
on
in
4
front of the protocol in that
Southwest
intersection,
Temple.
just like, oh, this
Or
is gonna,
Southwest
this is going to
Temple.
get bad.
Jeez.
Cafe Molise is there now.
Cafe Molise. Yeah.
Molise is there.
Yeah,
So-
anyway, it was wild.
So hold on. Someone paid someone to what? Shoot up the building? Or
Not
shoot
shoot
at
up,
least
but
scare us.
just threaten us
Scare you.
that they were
Yeah.
going to cause. they're like-
Intimidate.
They basically said, listen, you're going to shut down and give us what we want. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, is what was said.
Wow.
And so I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Do you feel like
Interesting.
Salt Lake City was kind of like the Wild Wild West for a while? Now we're actually turning into like a real
we're growing up.
I think so.
city.
Yeah.
I think so.
Utah's really growing up.
With all
Yeah.
the people that are moving here, with all the new restaurants, the new bar, like, all of the real estate downtown. Downtown's a whole different place than it was
Yeah.
back then.
It was
Yeah.
like a monopoly
Like,
back then.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
if
Just a
you
few
didn't fit
players
in
in
that
the game.
box, you're going to get run out of town.
Yeah. We were so naive. We had no idea what we, were
We didn't
into.
realize the
No idea.
cost in legal fees to run a nightclub, and it just put us under.
Oh wow.
And so, then we got divorced.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that. And
Yeah.
this is kind of a really unique story because you guys are married again.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you got
we are
divorced.
married again now.
So
Yeah.
11 years the first time. We made it 11.
Yep.
So you made it 11 years. You got into real estate, had 2 kids, opened a nightclub, and then kind of
Wow.
tell our listeners a little bit about
Well, imagine
what led up to the divorce.
Really quick. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things, but 2007, we shut our nightclub down. The builder went out of business. So we both worked for the builder. We owned the
Mhm.
nightclub. All of our income, professional life just stopped.
Jeez.
So on top of that, there was, other stresses.
It was just the stress of that, but that isn't why we got divorced.
No.
I mean, we can make it through being broke. We started out broke. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
No, basically, and I, this part is kind of interesting because ultimately living like a 20-year-old life that never really lived. And then I owned a nightclub. I got caught up into, I'm making money now. I'm getting attention. And I ended up cheating on him.
Oh wow.
And it was so crazy because it's the hardest feeling once you like realize what you did. Like I had everything and the only reason it's gone and it's ruined is because of me.
Yeah.
And then, I did a lot of therapy and stuff to figure out why, because I'm like, I'm not a cheater. That's not who I am. But why did I do the things that I did? Because I was broken. I was brokenhearted. I broke his heart. And so anyway, not to make like any excuses or anything for it, but like just kind of just understanding it. My dad, he raised us Mormon,
Mhm.
and he ends up cheating on my mom when I was in high school. And I think it was through the therapy and thinking this out, I think part of it was a big subconscious act out, I guess,
Mhm.
because I watched how hurt my mom got, from going through that. And my mom didn't do anything to deserve that.
Yeah.
And I just looked at her and I went through it with her. And I moved away to college because I was like, I'm going to move down to SUU. I can't be around this. This is so sad. It's heartbreaking. I love my dad. He just made some bad decisions, whatever. But I can't watch my mom hurt like this. So I move out. And anyway, I think that subconsciously I really thought like, if my dad could do that, any man could do that to me. Any man.
Mm.
So then I meet Ben. And not thinking that he's for sure going to do that to me. Like he's a great guy, obviously. I'd marry him. But I think, seeing his dad, this like, this biker guy, tattooed head to toe, this bad boy. I'm like, that's who raised you. You would probably be the type of guy because he would probably be the type of guy that he obviously, as he's been married 7 times, like you might do that to me too. So
Yeah.
if that ever happens to me, at least if I did something to deserve it, I'm not going to hurt like my mom hurt.
Oh, wow.
Like it'll hurt, but it's not going to hurt the same way because I kind of deserve it.
Well, but there was also stuff that we
Can
got
I-
out through therapy where she didn't feel deserving of how I treated.
Yeah, I
In a
didn't
way.
feel like I ever deserved him.
Interesting. Can I
Yeah.
ask a personal question?
Mhm.
So I've seen this a lot with Mormons who either didn't have sex before marriage or maybe just very little, very little dating, very little sex. And I've actually been I actually got hit on and some girl tried to have me cheat with her, have an affair with her. And we didn't. And I freaked out. It kind of blew my mind. But she got very pretty and started getting a ton of attention in her 30s, her early 30s. And she didn't know how to handle it.
Mhm.
And she loved it. And I still remember it was really interesting. I thought we were going on a real estate appointment. And all of a sudden, her hand's on my leg, and I'm like, oh, shit. Like, oblivious Sam just thinks we're like buddies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's your husband? She's
Didn't
like,
you say, where's your husband? Was
and
she kids?
I go, where are your kids? She's like, oh, I had my mom come get him. I'm like, oh, cool. Where's your husband? Oh, he's a nurse. He's working the night shift. And I'm like, so we're here alone. And then her hand's on my leg, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
And this is
She
at,
made
you're at a
dinner.
This is
listing
at
appointment
her house. Her house.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about
Oh,
investment
wow.
properties.
He comes in with his like iPad.
I'm like trying to talk
Or book.
investments like some nerd, and she's like, you idiot, I'm trying to have sex with you. And so I
Wow.
left. Actually, it was funny. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh, my back. And I like laid down on my stomach, and I'm like, so here's the shit that I was trying to tell you on the iPad. And then, oh, okay, I got to go. Bye. But, and I watched her, and I've seen it with a few different ladies in the different real estate offices I've been in. They kind of glow up,
Mhm.
and either they handle the attention really well, or maybe they don't. So I'm just
Right.
curious, and you don't have to answer this, but was that part of it at all? Because you're a
I
very
think-
pretty lady.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Through some of the therapy I did, in fact, part of the stuff that this particular therapist worked with was sex addiction. So I'm like, am I a sex addict? And she's like, they did these things on your brain, like tests on your brain, like 400 questions of all this stuff. And,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I literally need to know this about myself because whatever relationship I get into, and at the time, I think we were working on getting back together, right? I needed to make sure I knew why I did it
Yeah.
so I didn't ever repeat it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't really get why I did it. He never did anything to make me
Wow.
like want to do that other than life gets a little boring, and that seemed exciting, but that's
And
life.
if you own a nightclub, it can get a little boring.
Well, after
Yeah.
the nightclub, it was a little boring.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of my
So it's
point.
like
Is
you
all of a
had-
sudden you're
you had this
leading
lavish
this different
life.
life. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
things are crazy. You got the nightclub.
And then
Your
like we kind of
relationship's
lose
so good.
everything.
It was from my view watching, because then what happened is I managed Park City Live for a friend
Yeah.
while I was selling radio when real estate went bad. And all the time the security would be like, your ex-wife's here, and she'd show up with guys. She was best friends with the owner.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, cool. And we were great divorced. We were like, we loved each other still.
It wasn't like a toxic,
And in fact,
I hate you.
right before, she didn't want to get divorced. She was like, just let me get this out of my system. We'll be fine. And I was like, nah, like this marriage has to be over for me. Like this part has
Yeah.
to be over.
'Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, you were like, if we ever get married again, it has to be fresh and new. But like to get back to your question really quick,
Yeah.
the therapist did tell me, she goes, you're not a sex addict, but you are addicted to the attention.
Mm.
And she was so right. Like I thrived off the attention. I was like middle of 6 kids growing up, kind of got lost in the mess. And like, so when I remember I kind of had my first little glow up between 8th and 9th grade, like
Yeah.
lost the glasses, straightened my hair, like got attention from boys. And then I realized, oh, I can get attention. And it was from men.
Yeah.
And so I think it started then that I realized, and then it just kind of progressed after that as I got older. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, this is where I can get attention. And it became like almost
Well,
like
it feels
addictive.
good. It's addictive to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. My one girl I dated after I got divorced was absolutely addicted to it.
To the attention.
Absolutely. And it was to the point where I was the Instagram boyfriend,
Mhm.
taking 15 pictures a day because the messages she would get, and she'd complain about them. But I'm like watching
What
her
are you
like
doing?
she fucking loves it.
What
Yeah.
are our kids
She
called? A
loved the
trap
attention.
photo?
Yeah. or thirst trap.
Thirst trap.
Thirst trap.
Thirst trap.
We're
We
learning.
learn all these
We're
things from
learning
our kids now.
We started going through therapy but also during divorce, we were still loved each other. We were great
Yeah.
friends. Like
Wow.
she had, her brother goes through some really difficult things, and she would call me at 3 a.m. and I would show up.
Oh, wow.
Just like we were very close.
That's great.
We'd go shopping for the kids for Christmas, and we honestly hooked up the whole time while we were divorced.
Nice.
But it just,
Until I got a boyfriend, and then I was like, okay, I got to prove to myself I'm a loyal person. He was like, what
I
the
was
fuck?
like, are you fucking kidding me right now? You're not
Yeah.
going to cheat
I'm like,
on
I
this
had a
guy?
boyfriend for
Yeah,
3 months,
yeah,
and he was like,
yeah.
oh, we can't hook up anymore. I'm like, no, I have a boyfriend. And he's like, well,
But-
what the fuck?
But she was also like in the
Yeah.
very beginning, just almost like living out that pre-programmed I'm not worthy
Yeah.
piece, like
Yeah.
being so self-destructive.
But
And
it's
the guys,
something it was probably missing in your life that you're like, this is why you were seeking. You were
Absolutely.
seeking something that you were missing.
Absolutely. And I remember the day, I remember it so clearly. I was 33 years old. We had just barely started talking about getting back together. And I remember thinking, I'm not the bad choices I've made. I'm a good person and I know this and I deserve somebody good. I hope it's him, but if it's not him, it's going to be somebody good that comes into my life because
Wow.
that's what I deserve.
well, yeah,
That's great.
because she was dating guys. I always put her here, like,
Yeah.
I married my dream woman. I woke up, I felt bad for guys that were married that would be like, look at that girl, or look at that. Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
I wake up every day and I'm like, damn, I still have this one.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I always put her on this level, and I was like, these guys you're talking to or dating, they don't even, they don't even deserve to have the conversation with you.
Yeah.
But it was this self-destructive thing. And so for her to get to a place where she's like, it almost was so necessary. And I had a couple over one time, a few friends over one time. And this girl, she kind of asked me, she goes, hey, how could you ever forgive her? And I was like, you don't understand. It's like, it's easy for people to say like, oh, if you cheated on me, I would never.
Right.
I would never. Like,
Right.
that's the worst thing, whatever. But also we talk about it sometimes, and she's like, I don't even know who that person was. And I don't either, because she's a different person. And I told this girl, I said, you know what? If I could go back in time and take all that away, I wouldn't. Because now we are so much stronger and so much a better place than we would had we not had that. If you go through hell together,
And you make it out of hell together.
Yeah.
you can do anything.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I
You know,
love
Betty
that.
and I met
I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but
Right.
in
Super
hell.
painful.
In
We
hell.
met in hell. We've broken
You
up
met
3
in hell.
times, actually.
You have
So
a trauma bond.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Like
So
we
said that, and our therapist was like, it's not a trauma bond. A trauma
a
bond.
lot of trauma.
A
So you're on the right track.
Yeah.
But she corrected us. She's like, trauma bond is when like you're so damaged that like you bond just because of the
Just
trauma.
because
Oh,
of
yeah.
that.
But you're
Gotcha.
damaging each other, but you can't get away from it.
She's like,
Gotcha.
you
So,
guys
like,
are more
Yeah.
like
relationships.
That makes sense.
you were in a
a
shitty
trauma.
low place.
That
She
makes
wasn't
sense.
ready to date me. I really liked her.
It's like
And then it flip
love bombing
flopped.
me.
Yeah.
And then we just have so many bad habits from previous relationships where broke up 3 times. And then EDC, we're probably going to break up again, but we didn't.
At EDC, I actually told my friend this. I was like, Sam's a great guy. He's got some shit to work through, but I'm done. So I was like, I'm going to go to EDC. I'm going to see it out. He's got some things that he needs to figure out, but I'm done. So
And I was just angry with her.
and I was,
because of-
and it's because he was holding on
Yeah.
to this angry and resentment, and I was like, which I
Well-
wasn't mad at him for, but it was like that's his journey to work through. I know
But-
who
well,
I am.
Some people bring the shitty relationship from their prior relationship, from that like actions of that person into the new one.
Not
Yeah.
some.
And it's
Most
like
people do, I
most.
think, without
Yeah.
recognizing
And it's not
it.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like if I'd been with someone else other than her, I'd probably be like, you're going to cheat on me.
Yeah.
And I
I
wouldn't
was-
trust them
Yeah.
with no reason not to trust them, just because it happened before
Right.
and there's that trauma from it. And
I was
so,
unapologetically like mean. I was like, I don't have time for you. Sorry.
to
I don't
him,
want to date. Yeah.
But then wanted me there so bad and said that she loved me and wanted me to
I
be
did.
with her.
But
I
I
would-
If
like,
that's not a woman,
like-
I don't know what.
but
I would
needed
fly
my
home from
space,
Dallas.
I need my space,
Yeah,
but I
I'd
also
like-
want you here.
I'd cut business trip short, fly home from Dallas to go to divorce court with her to support her. And she'd be like, I didn't need you here. And I'm like, fuck. Like, like that type of roller coaster,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then vice versa.
Even though she appreciated it, she just still wanted
Well,
to be like,
Oh, dude,
I would
it
be
was
like, no,
like-
don't come. I really don't need you to be here. And he would just do it anyway. And I was like, who the freak is this guy that just keeps showing up? Because my whole life I was alone.
Yeah.
So he showed up for me, and then he'd get upset because I was like, didn't want him there. And then
she didn't know what to do with it. She's like,
I did it.
like
I bet
we
if
actually,
you're not used to that.
so we actually were broken up, and then she went to court with her ex, and like
He showed up.
this guy, like the stuff he said to Betty, like I wanted to beat the shit out of him, but I wasn't going to let her go to court with this guy alone, even though we had just broken up. I was messing around
Even
with
though
other girls.
I would have been great going by
And-
myself.
But then on the way there, she's like, yeah, I had a nightmare that he strangled me in court.
My
I'm like, that's
God.
why I'm fucking here.
wow.
Because
would-
I know, even though you're saying you don't need it, Betty, I love you. We're not together, but I still love you. And there's no one's going to stop me from going to court with you. And I sat behind that dude and made him feel as intimidated as possible that he was trying to take money and custody away from this sweet little girl who's crushing it. Like this guy, like,
Wow.
anyways, like I was going to be there, whether she had cheated, like there was nothing she could have done, and she hadn't done much. I broke up with
I
her.
was like, oh,
I broke up with her, and I was still going to be there for her.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but
That's awesome.
yeah, there's it's very interesting. Relationships are tough, and we've gotten back together 3 times, and we moved in together in August,
Cool.
and now we have 6 kids together, 4 and 2, and it's crazy. It's a
it's
lot.
still hard.
It's always hard.
There's a lot to figure out. So what
It's-
helped you guys get back together? Because we had some heart-to-hearts. We've been in therapy for 2 years now almost with a great
Mhm.
therapist, and it's still fucking hard.
Well,
Yeah.
with having, I'll let you tell the get together story. With having kids, I mean, obviously we had our kids together, so we were co-parenting and we were close and we loved each other and we were good friends and tried to be as good to each other as we could through all of it, in spite of running into people that we were dating, and mainly it was me running into the guys you
Still
were
running
dating
a
at the club.
nightclub.
Yeah, but for me, I loved those 3 years because I had the best 3 years with my kids. It was like dad time.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to date in the new world. Like I had never used Tinder.
Yeah.
This is right when and we're
Yeah.
really
It was
aging
still-
ourselves
it
there,
was
but
still
right when
before-
all the dating apps came out.
What year was this?
Gosh,
2007,
2009,
9?
9, 10,
9 was
11.
the worst.
Actually, it's
Yeah.
probably 2010, 11, 12.
We were on Plenty of Fish. And I
Okay.
would always search outside her age so I didn't have to see her.
Nice.
He knew I'd be on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we both were.
Yeah.
But we both never really dated. Well, she
Facebook.
kind of had a couple boyfriends, but
years.
I was terrible at dating.
Yeah.
Like I had found that to me, it felt like women. I mean, I managed night Park City Live, and I had 22 beautiful cocktails that worked with me, and were always like, "Come party," and I was like, "No, I'm like your boss." Like,
Yeah.
we were both doing the Plenty of Fish thing, but I felt like there was a role reversal in men and women, and maybe it was just me, but like I was still stuck in like the era of when I met her of like, you date someone, you court them, you make them dinner, and you date one woman at a time. And when I was single, that made you a serial killer. Like
Yeah.
women thought, and I am a little bit of a relationship person.
Nice
like,
guy. You
old school.
Like I would be,
A
I
little
would be
anxious to be in a
a little
relationship, let's
anxious.
say.
Like,
Yeah.
like I meet you and be like, can you just come over every day and like watch The Notebook and hang out?
You're connected.
And all these new girls
Yeah.
are like, you're
You're
crazy.
crazy. And you didn't
girls
try
are
to
like, let's bang and maybe I'll
And
talk to you
I'll
in a
move
week.
on. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Most guys are dating. They have their Monday girl, Tuesday girl, Wednesday. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I hated dating. I hated being single. Neither one of us found anyone that we were like felt a future with. So then,
It's like we always knew we just loved each other. We just had this huge roadblock. Obviously, like, how do you get over somebody cheating on you? That is like and how do you build that back up? Because even if you build it back up, like we have over the years, like,
A lot of trust.
so, yeah, trust is the one thing. If you blindly have like true trust with each other and then someone breaks it, I don't believe you'll ever have 100%. There'll always be like a fracture in it. Maybe you'll get 100% of it, but you'll always see that fracture,
Yeah.
you
Like a
you cut
scar.
yourself and you have a scar. But maybe if it heals, that part is always going to be tougher than the rest of it.
Yeah.
But you always know it's there.
It's going to be
Yeah.
there.
And I think that's kind of what luckily for us, when we got remarried in my vows, I knew my words could only mean so much. So I told him, if I have to show you, I will show you every single day. I might not tell you every day because words are words, but I will show you every day for the rest of my life that I am a loyal, loving person who wants you in my life. And
I love that.
yeah.
But what
Beautiful.
made you guys really, what was the deciding factor of, okay,
It was just
let's
do it.
Let's get married again.
It was just one night. I was moving out of a house, and we had a suspended slab under the garage, and I had all the bins of shit, like all my
10 years of all
all
our
her
storage
shit.
he carried
and I
around.
was moving it all around, and I called her up, and I was like, halfway moved out. We didn't have a couch. And I was like, listen, I've got like your high school yearbooks. I've got all your cheer shit. Like, why don't you come go through your stuff? You take your stuff. So we ordered like Del Taco, and the kids were there, and we put on a movie, and we had a picnic sitting on the living room floor. And then we just sat out in the back patio, and we talked until the sun came up. And
That's
we
awesome.
told each other everything that we like, guys that she dated that made her like just all these
We just got
awful,
very vulnerable with
Yeah.
each other in a way that like we were both hurting, but we both loved each other. And it was like, we have these beautiful children. We know we love each other. Is this something that is possible to get through together? Are we in this together or not? And I'll tell you, like, in those moments, we decided, yes, this is something I want to try. This is something he wanted to try. It took a few months to really, like, there was some back and forth on it. Because obviously, like, you get nervous. You're like, I don't know. Like, in that moment, that felt right. But
The trauma comes
I'm
back.
scared. Like,
Well,
yeah.
So-
she always jokes we got together both times when we were broke, because I was just kind of recovering from I'd been done with a nightclub, just couldn't do it anymore,
Yeah.
and I was working in mortgage lending
Okay.
at the time, and started doing really well again, and that's when we started dating, and I had roommates up until then, and I got my own townhome, and I was like, I remember going and buying a TV and being like, hell yeah, this is where it's at.
Nice.
My own new TV by
Was
myself.
it a flat screen or was it a, like
it was a
the
flat,
triangle
it was
thing?
a flat screen.
It's a flat screen.
Yeah, we're up
moving,
into the
we're moving on
modern
in time.
We had
Yeah,
cell
modern
phones,
times now.
You have
at
cell
the
phones
time.
now.
Yeah, I
We had
an
cell phones
iPhone.
now.
Nice.
And then we started dating, and
I kind of slowly started moving stuff
we
in.
moved in. And then
I mean, you guys never stopped
but-
hooking up. So
Yeah,
Like-
we
I
still.
I mean, we didn't. Only the 3
period.
months I had the
Brief
boyfriend.
period.
But
I'm leaving my
Yeah.
bra here.
Which
Brief
was
period.
actually like super
Leaving
fun,
my-
because I'd call her and be
If you-
like, "Do you want to come over to my place?" And she's like, "Yeah."
yeah.
it actually made it so hot. After being married for 11 years, being in the church, like having kids, all the mundane like life stuff, and then to like be divorced and have it be like naughty again. But yet it was with somebody I was married to. It was so hot.
Who knows you and can.
It was so hot.
probably
Like
get it done.
probably
Yeah.
the hottest sex we ever had. Sorry, kids, if you ever listen to this. No, so after we had dinner and everything, we were talking about like, is this possible? We still love each other so much. And we got in the car and we were driving with the kids, and they were like, I don't know, like 9 and 11 years old or something. They were young. And I remember this moment, we just had music on. We were driving down the street, and I looked at him, and I looked in the back seat at my 2 kids. And I had this thought, I don't care what it takes. I'm putting my family back together.
Mm.
This is all I want. What's in this little Honda Accord or whatever we were driving at the time. All I want in this life is this. And I don't care what it takes.
I love that. I heard a comedian say something similar, and this is why I never cheated. He was sitting on the bed with his wife and his kids, and he was like, I will never fuck this up.
It was a very clear moment, almost like one of those defining moments in life where I can recall it, like I can see every detail. And I just knew, I'm like, I know this isn't going to be easy, but I know this is the only thing that matters.
I remember
right
we
now.
actually said, we're going to have to clean house and make those phone calls to like, hey, we're not going to be able to hang out, because we each had people
Yeah.
that we.
Yeah, I mean, we'd
The
been
tanning
divorced
salon
for almost
girl
3
just
years.
showing up
Yeah.
randomly.
Yeah, I didn't have to make that phone call, but
but
there were
She got the
others,
picture.
that was like, listen, like we may have been starting
She showed up
something, but
last week.
that's
Oh my
that's
God.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after she moved into that townhome, and we dated again, and for a second time, then we went out one night to a jazz game, and I just while we were divorced, I just never felt like I was in a good enough place to even be able to be with someone. I just didn't feel good about me.
Yeah.
So being back together with her, and then we go to this jazz game, and we were leaving, and I saw a billboard for Edge Homes.
But first we had a conversation right before we see this billboard, and he was like, I don't really like working for radio. I mean, I'm pretty good at it. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? What would make you happy? And he said, the one thing I loved doing was selling houses. I loved it. I was good at it. Like I loved it. And I go, well, why don't you go back and sell houses then? Like you have the rest of your life. Do whatever you want with it. Like if that makes you happy, do that. And no joke, we walk out. And we walk out of the jazz game. There's this massive billboard of Edge Homes. Never heard of them at the time.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
One of the biggest builders in Utah. And I looked at it and I go, look at there's a home builder. Call them. So on Monday he calls up Edge Homes. Turns out he was like one of like 400 applicants to.
Well, and it was specifically new construction. I love that's all I've ever done is new construction. I love the building process. I love taking a lot and seeing a dirt hill turn into a community.
It is fun.
And then a year later, there's homes with Christmas trees. I just love that. And I love working with people. And so she gave me
building their dreams.
She gave me like, not permission, but the motivation and the confidence
Empowered
to go,
you.
I can go do that again and go start knowing that I'm not probably going to get a paycheck for 6 months and go do it again. And I called them as if when I was still in radio, I called like, hey, like I seen your billboards. A lot of times people that have billboards want radio and blah, blah, blah. And the girl's like, not interested. And I said, but I also saw you're hiring. And she goes, yeah. So I went down, met with Jed Stewart. We had an interview for about 45 minutes. He goes, what day can you start? And I started there. And that was, and then it was, how long after that we got married in Mexico? Our second marriage was in Mexico, 2011.
What part of Mexico?
No, it wasn't. It was 2014.
Okay. Yes.
Well, my brother passed away.
It was 11/11/2014.
The year before, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So we built our house again, an Edge house. And
I spent 10 years with Edge.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was a great builder. We had some of the best years of our life doing that. And she stayed home with the kids again.
No, I didn't. I did hair for 10 years.
Well, yeah.
I didn't stay home.
You said something.
I did in the beginning, though.
That kind of, so you basically pushed him to go accept his dream. Like, hey, I love to.
Twice.
I want to build homes. This is what I love. And you're like, okay, we're not going to have a paycheck for 6 months because it takes a long time to build a house.
Right.
And you were like, okay, yeah, it's your passion, right?
Right.
Like, so you
because I knew that happiness matters more than anything. And it's like, we can struggle through 6-8 months. As long as you're happy doing what you love,
I love that.
Then it's like that. I don't know, maybe it's cliche, but like you'll never work a day in your life if you're doing what you love, right?
No, I love that.
And it's true.
Well, I was with a company and the sales team motto that I did not come up with was you can put up with a lot of shit for $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And my ex, when I finally stopped working with that group, she was really happy for me because it was like killing me inside. There's a lot of greed, a lot of dishonesty.
Yeah.
And it just felt gross. Like I hated it. I was constantly put in a spot between my clients and people I worked for.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about your story, Ben, is I didn't know you, Connie, but I knew who Ben was because I actually approached Steve Maddox at the gym. I had heard he was the
owner of Edge
Homes.
Yeah.
And I was a newer agent and I was working out every day at 5:30. And I went up to him. I said, hey, I cold call a lot. Can I bring you a land deal? Can you tell me so I don't waste your time, what you're looking for? And he's like, hey, come start working out with me. For the next 6 years, I worked out every day with Steve Maddox.
Wow.
And Boo and, met all his sons. And he gave me opportunities I would have never had. And so
awesome.
I heard who Ben Daniels was from the get-go. Like, oh, number one agent, every single year, number one. So hats off to you for taking an opportunity and hats off to you for empowering your husband to be able to do that because there's not a lot of people. And I try to find a theme in my podcast. Every time I do something with Deb, it was love more, judge less.
Yeah.
with Betty's podcast a couple days ago is be like Grandpa Bob, who was her adopted grandpa, who gave selflessly to her and her mom and her brothers. And, you know, I'm jealous of the empowerment that you got from your wife.
Well, she supported me in everything I did, even when I
Yeah.
left Edge, which, you know, I just
And that
gotten
was a
to
big
point.
move to leave Edge
Yeah.
after being number
Well-
one for 10 years. Most of those
Yeah.
years you were number one. And-
Yeah, I remember it was, yeah.
But
and
then
it
he's
was-
like, I'm going to go do this crypto thing. And I was like, oh shit, here we go. But also like, I just believe in him. He's like, whatever you do, you put everything into it. You put your heart and soul into it. And I trust it. And
I was like-
I also know that like, even if things don't work out, we're going to be fine. I always
love
know
that.
that. Like, we can live without money for some point
Do you
in
know
time.
what one of the number one reasons for divorce is?
Huh.
Well, 70% of divorces are filed by women.
Mhm.
Just over 70. And one of the number one reasons they give is financial hardship.
Because that's hard. That
It's
creates
really
a
hard.
ton of stress.
And it's because women want security, and
Yeah.
that's one of the number one needs of women, especially stay-at-home moms:
stability,
stability and security,
safety.
safety.
And don't get me wrong, that is my number one too. But
Yeah. But it also takes a different, confident person who has vision and love for the other person to empower them and say, "Hey, if we fall on hard times, I got your back."
yeah.
And you know, again, jealous. Congratulations, hats off to you guys for
Well,
having
I
that.
remember
Thank you.
her telling her, like, I'm going to go be a crypto investor now instead of sticking with something that's been working for 10 years
Yeah,
because I was
You were
just
burned out.
yeah.
I was burned out. I was ready for a change. And, you know, and when I started, there was 8 agents. And when, you know, there was 38, it just, you know,
It got chaotic.
it just got
Into
chaotic.
corporate.
It didn't,
Yeah.
I still would say I just the best builder in the state aside from the one I work for now.
They're a great builder.
They're a great
They're
builder.
amazing. I love, they're like my family.
You know what's interesting is their quality suffered. They grew so damn fast.
well,
That-
that's the
and
challenge.
my ex-mother-in-law built with them in Heber.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I'm working out every day with Steve, and I'm hearing about these problem clients. It's my fucking mother-in-law. And I'm not even telling him. And it was Edge's fault. And so
Well,
yeah.
I'm watching this unfold. And guess what? Edge said, we're going to double down on quality. We're going to go fix that shit. And meanwhile, other builders who I cannot stand, I won't mention their name, Salisbury and Ivory. And no, but there's other builders that like I built $1 million house with a builder. My final walkthrough, they were just like, tough shit. Yeah, that doesn't look right.
Well,
Sorry.
and Edge from the start was always about, and what I loved about Steve, because Steve and I were really close, he would come in to the sales meetings and he would talk to us as if we were part of the corporate team, and he would tell us some of the challenges so we would understand, like,
Mhm.
oh, this is why you made this decision that
Yeah.
we hate,
Yeah.
or this is why you did this. And when you're a builder that's building 250 to 300 homes a year, you can have one framer, you can
Yeah,
have one
yeah.
excavator. When you're building 2,200 homes a year, now you've got to somehow manage
Some serious
5
issues.
painters and maintain that same quality through
Yep.
5 painters.
Yep.
It's an incredible challenge. I remember how hard the growing pains were. And for them they spent a lot of time, not just bringing on new subcontractors, but helping the current contractors and subcontractors that they had grow with them, because they were
Yeah.
like, we need to motivate you to grow with us
Yeah.
because we want to take you with us. And that was huge. And I think Edge was one of the only majors to be able to maintain that.
Yeah.
I mean, it slipped for a minute, but it didn't take long for them
It
to get it
slipped
together.
like
Exactly. They
Asphalt.
doubled down and it got way better. So do you remember how the final walkthrough process changed?
Uh-huh.
It went from here's blue tape
to-
everywhere to there's actually nothing to fix. I dare you to find something.
And they were perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like that's
And I
like the
noticed that.
builder that we work for now, Hillwood.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Hillwood Homes is like, with both of us working for multiple builders, I'd have to say like this is definitely one of my favorite people and
Well, and
builders to
how
work for.
the same way it kind of came around. I was, I'd made this change into like, I'm going to be this investor and I'm going to invest in crypto, which is so volatile and so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And it would be great. And then it'd be terrible. And it'd be great. And it'd be terrible. And so I was having lunch again with Justin Basso.
Nice.
And he goes, man, I really wish you'd just get back into real estate. And I was like, you know what? I actually want to. He goes, are you interested in running a home builder? Building a sales team, running sales and marketing for this home builder. I have this great company they've actually been in building for 4 years, but they don't have a big sales presence. They've been focusing 4 years on the building process and quality, and they weren't just a small time builder. They're building $4 million homes up in Heber. They're building at Red Ledges. They're building in Park City. They're building in Highland and Spanish Fork. So they've got 5 communities and
in West Jordan this
two
summer.
salespeople with no sales manager. And that's just what they needed. And I was like, I would love to do that.
They had one agent that worked for him at the time, and it was just some guy in his ward.
Yeah.
And he has all this supply with like nobody to sell it, except this one
They
guy.
were right in the middle of just really opening up, going from 2
Yeah.
communities to 6. And it's just like, how do you go from there to there without somebody and it just happened that I have the network of people that I could just come right in and bring in my processes that have worked for me for 20 years in real estate. And so I was like, okay, what's this guy going to be like? And I met the owner, and the team is just the nicest, most genuine, like to work for someone that cares so much about their clients and their employees. I remember him calling me 1 month in. So I had 6 names of people that I wanted to hire and bring on the team. Every one of them said yes.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh yeah. One of them was my wife.
Yeah.
Sabrina Martinez, who you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
My brother-in-law, Troy Noble. Adam Clavo, who was her partner at Red Ledges.
No, Red Sage and Sandy. We sold a project together.
Red Sage.
Mm-hmm.
Amber Sales, who was a broker. She's the broker for Community.
Yep.
And then the owner's son, Braxton Turner, who just knows everything about the company and construction. So everybody came on.
Everyone brought a different talent and like a different like vision to it, and like all together as a team. Like it's a small team, but like it's been awesome. And to work for somebody who values your opinion and your vision, and they put those things into play into their company. Like they're just like, they're small enough that like it matters, but big enough that like we can sell for the next like who knows how many years. And they'll keep growing. And
he wants, they want
awesome.
to stay at that size. They're not looking to build 2,000 homes a year. They want to stay at that size where they can maintain quality and not have that challenge of
a few hundred, 300, 400, 500 a year.
Yep. 354.
What's nice though is that you watched Edge growing pains.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can probably help them avoid a lot of the pitfalls that you learned at Edge. And again, I kind of told a little bit of negative story about Edge. Like my mother-in-law built with them and it's a rough situation, but Steve stepped up and he fixed everything.
Yeah.
And they doubled down on quality and it's become, and I was actually the number 2 outside sales agent for Edge like 3 years in a row.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And it's because I watched that and I had a lot of confidence that I said, you know what, I will push Edge over every other builder in the state of Utah because of their quality.
Well, and I called, so, we're having this discussion now about what's happening with buyers agents and the real commission changes. And so I called Edge, and one of my contacts there, my old friends, and maybe I won't name who, just in case, but and said, hey, we're having this discussion, and I know my view as the director of sales for Hillwood, what I want to do, and is I don't want to change anything.
Yeah,
I want to support the realtors. I want to support buyers agents. We're going to pay full 3%.
Yep.
We're not going to change. What is it Edge is going to do? And they said that's exactly what we're going to do. And so I think the builders that do that are going to thrive just like they did during 2020, during COVID. We were crushing it from our basement, having less than 10 people over
and
our
Edge
house.
had the opportunity.
Yeah.
There's other builders that did when it was going crazy. They cut back buyer agent commissions to save money.
And the agents don't forget. They don't forget that when you didn't need us, you threw us away.
And the problem is as a buyer's agent, as a realtor, nothing's guaranteed. Your commission, your income is not guaranteed. You work your ass off for months and months and months for clients who don't end up buying a home. Then you do sell a home to someone and it's months and months of work with them. And so I think what Edge understands and what you understand and Hillwood understands is a really good buyer's agent is vital to the process.
Absolutely.
For sure.
A really good listing agent, builder's agent is vital to the process. The bad ones, they need to not be. So I'm excited for the changes the industry is seeing.
Well, and I've always looked at it like you're paid for procuring costs. You bring the buyer to us. That's essentially what you're paid for.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit weird for agents that do both types of business because you feel a little bit left out. Sometimes when you sell to a builder, it's almost like, I brought you my buyer, then you just took over and are doing everything.
Yeah.
Edge allowed the buyer's agent to be involved at whatever level they want to. Hillwood, we're doing the same thing. But also at those times when something goes wrong, because it's new construction and something is going to go wrong.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I said, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Something's going to break. Something's not going to be done right. Something's going to be missed. But just know we're going to take care of it.
Yeah.
The buyer's agent is a good one, will help that situation not make it worse.
Exactly.
And I've had buyer's agents save deals that would have completely blown up because they would have been like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world.
And make it into a bigger deal.
Make it a bigger deal than it is.
Half of our job is talking people off a ledge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like being a marriage
remember,
counselor.
this is your dream. Let's not throw away your dream because the paint was wrong.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
fix
right.
the paint and you can still move into your dream home.
Right.
That's right.
And-
How do you think I talked him into remarrying me? I talked him right off the ledge.
Talked him off the ledge. So I'm really excited for Hillwood Homes and excited for you guys and this opportunity. The market is crazy right now. Interest rates are high. Betty and I toured your guys' model in Highland, beautiful model. And, I've been a realtor since 2011. I do not push a lot of builders. I've seen stuff from every builder, and there's like 3 builders that I'll actually promote. If my clients choose a random builder that I think is decent, okay, that's fine. But if it's my choice, it's Edge, it's a couple other homes, it's Hillwood Homes. So I'm excited for you guys to have put together what you've put together. I know Betty and I will be pushing to our clients. Betty, you really liked the model a lot. And actually, Betty was talking about going back. She's like, we didn't get enough content. We didn't get enough good shots. We were talking to you the whole time. So
Just come up to Park City, see Park City.
Yeah.
We
I like
should.
to see the product. I like to
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm weird. I'm like the black lights, the matte black, the quartz countertops.
The details.
I like the details.
There's quite a few black homes up in
I love
Silver
that.
Creek Village up in Park City. That's just a little bit different.
Well,
Take
and
a look.
one really cool thing about Park City too in Silver Creek Village is it is approved for nightly rentals. So if you have any investors,
Yeah.
I know there's not a ton of. I mean, there's little areas that you can rent nightly, but you can in Silver Creek
Yeah.
Village.
I
Yeah.
always get clients every
City.
year that want a second home in Utah
Yep.
that just want to offset that payment with nightly rentals or renting it out when they're not
Yeah.
there.
And I kind of think, I don't know. I mean, tell me your thoughts on this. If it happens, because in July, everything's supposed to change where buyer's agents have to get listing agreements up front and negotiate their commissions. Do you feel that a lot of buyer's agents are going to gravitate towards builders because they know they're the ones that are going to take care of them?
Yeah.
Where they don't have to worry about that so much?
I think they will follow the money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we do what we do.
the ease-
Essentially,
Yeah,
we got to
ease
make
of
a
the
living.
process. So if I have a buyer, absolutely, I'm going to take them to Hillwood and Edge because I know right off the bat, first of all, they're going to respect me as a human being, as a buyer's agent, and not just try to get rid of me.
Yeah.
And also, I know they're going to have my clients are going to have a good process with you guys. And so, absolutely, I think agents that know they're going to get paid if they bring you a buyer. I mean, there's builders out there that actually knowingly break the law. And they say, unless you accompany your buyer
The
the
first
first
time.
visit,
Yeah.
we do not pay you a commission, which is illegal. I don't know how they get away with it. It's illegal to say that and do that, but they do it because they know
And
we're not
why?
gonna sue them.
Why?
They
Just
they're
to try to
save the
sneak
commission,
out of
right?
saving money.
Yeah.
It's
So
money,
I think you guys will do great.
which doesn't make sense because most companies, as a listing agent, you already you've already you've already discussed that commission. They already know they're paying it.
Yeah.
So it's just all about verbiage. Like, I think the issue is not necessarily, as a buyer's agent, I'm not going to make money. It's how we talk about it.
I think there's a
the
lot of
commission breath. There's a lot of people there's probably agents that misrepresented how they were going to get paid. And that's why we're having this huge crisis in commission. But the people that are going to be fine are commission. Commission is always discussed up front. It's like, hey, how do you get paid? Well, here's the process. And the more honest and open you are about it, you're going to be fine. I have thrived as a buyer's agent. I've never had an issue, but that commission is talked about right at the front. Like, hey, I don't get paid until you close on your home. This is how that's factored in. And for a long time, I think people have gotten away with like saying, "Oh, you don't have to pay me." Like, you don't.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
newer agents and also less skilled or honest agents that are going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I know a sales trainer I just talked to, he has 70 something agents and he's freaking out. He's like, Sam, a lot of these guys cannot articulate why they should be paid a commission by their buyer, and they're going to be in trouble.
Or they were the discount agent
Yeah.
that was like, I'll sell your home for free if you
Yeah.
let me do this. Or,
Yeah, it's like Homey, the billboard,
Yeah.
save the commission.
Homie's done, right?
They were bleeding money. I don't even know. Are they done?
I heard that they were, and
Yeah.
someone had said something that they were maybe shutting it down.
They were struggling for a long time. I mean, there's been a million discount brokerages though.
You pay what
You pay for
you
what
get
you-
what you pay
you
for.
But
get
you
what
go
you
back
pay
to
for.
my
You ever gone to the service department at Porsche?
Yeah.
It's not like going to Honda.
No. Well, and it goes back to like, I have multiple examples. Like I just sold a house where their previous agent told them to file for bankruptcy because they had liens, they couldn't sell it. I called them, they were expired.
Can you imagine telling someone to go file for bankruptcy?
They were
You're not an
they were
attorney.
signing
Right.
they were signing the papers that week, and I met with them and I was like, "Wait, I can sell your house. I promise. Do not file." Cuz I mean, that's financial life over.
Yeah.
They're in their 60s. Bankruptcy
Wow.
in your 60s, that's rough.
Yeah.
And anyways, I sold their house. I worked my ass off. I got their liens reduced to the point where instead of they were negative like 40,000 at the closing table.
Wow.
They would have had to write a check for 40 grand. Instead, they walked away with 10 grand, didn't file bankruptcy. And that was because of the liens I negotiated.
And it wasn't
down
just
for
the
them.
house. Was there only liability?
Well, they had 150,000 in liens of
Credit
medical
cards,
debt,
all sorts
Wow.
of
solar,
things.
all this.
And you did
different-
all that just as a good agent.
And but I did that because I was like, and I was prepared to give him my commission because like I can't let these people file bankruptcy
Yeah.
over 10, 15, because we got to the point where they were like still at 20,000, like that we could not get rid of. And somehow we got rid of it and they walked away. So the
That's
difference
awesome.
between the agent that told them go file bankruptcy, you're hosed for
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
life's over, to them at the closing table getting a $10,000 check.
Gosh, that's
So
thrilling.
that's the difference between the agents that are going to be fine in July
Yep.
and the agents that are like, well, guess I'm finding a new career.
Yeah.
I love
Absolutely.
it. I love it.
And I think a lot of smart agents, again, that's why I was excited to promote Hillwood and what you guys are doing. They need to know about Hillwood because there's builders that I will absolutely not promote because they're going to be trying to cut out the agents.
Yep.
And we work our asses off for our money and we take care of
It's-
our clients.
Right.
It was cool when we reconnected because I tell my son all the time, and I said, you know what, I may not be the smartest person, but my network is worth so much to me. I mean, the people you meet, you never know who you meet in some situation. And if I kind of always we talk a lot about like, we want to go through life and hope that every encounter we have with someone that they leave feeling better.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? And we met years ago, and when you pulled up in your Hellcat, I was like, this guy drives a purple Hellcat. That's super dope. And I'm so into
You had
cars.
the white Camaro.
I had the matte black Camaro, but I had the white Trackhawk. And so,
white Trackhawk and the Camaro.
and so we got talking cars, and you used a different edge agent, which is fine.
Because I worked out with them for 6 years.
That's right.
But
I helped them get in the
you're
business.
loyal.
Yeah.
And then we reconnected at a party, and I'm like, and then just, Justin Basso, like I've known him for 20 years, and to have these, and so our kids have had such a great, all the things we've gone through in our life, they've been through it with us, even the divorce and all of it, and the going through making money and losing money and getting it back, and, having these struggles. It's just, I'm glad we had kids young because of that, because they got to see us go through so much of life.
And they realize
That's
that
a
no
really good
matter what
point.
happens in life, no matter how hard it gets, it can get better. You're never stuck. You're never stuck in a phase. It might feel like it. It might feel like it takes forever to get out of it. But I think that one thing we've shown our kids is if you fight for something, you can have it. And you just can't give up.
I love that.
I love that.
Guys, this has been an amazing podcast. And just to recap really quick, I've learned so much from you guys today. One of my big takeaways was empowering your partner. So Connie, great job. My other takeaway was setting your alcohol down and quitting drinking for 5 years for the right person and the right reason.
Yeah.
loyalty and love really does conquer all. So congratulations for you guys being remarried, and next year is 10 years.
This year, November 11/11.
November 11/11, 10 years
10
remarried. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank you
we
for
appreciate
having
you
us.
guys. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
And good luck at Hillwood Homes.
Thank you.
For our
I'm
listeners,
sure we'll see you.
yeah, go check out their communities: Park City, Spanish Fork, Highland. Where else?
Alpine.
That was
West
Highland.
Jordan.
Spanish Fork, Highland, Park City, Heber, Midway, and then we have West Jordan coming in June.
West Jordan coming in June.
West Jordan's going to be
Excited to
hot.
see that one.
High
Awesome.
sixes, quarter acres.
Quarter
Yeah.
acres.
7800
Wow.
West
South,
Jordan,
2020
but not-
West. Great
yeah.
spot. And we're always looking for more land. So we're looking to grow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll connect you guys with someone I know that's looking at some land deals right
Awesome.
now.
Nice.
He's in my office.